Richard Stone, a millionaire CEO, stood at the edge of the most exclusive party in town, surrounded by glittering chandeliers, clinking champagne glasses, and a sea of wealthy women vying for his attention. Despite the opulence, he was bored out of his mind. Their conversations about luxury vacations to the Maldives and rare diamond necklaces felt hollow, like a script he'd heard 1,000 times before. He swirled the drink in his hand, plotting an escape, when a sudden commotion shattered the room's polished ambiance. "What the hell?" An outraged scream echoed from the entrance. Every head turned. A distinguished man, one of the city's most powerful bankers, stood drenched in bright red juice, his pristine white suit now a canvas of crimson stains. In front of him was a young woman, her delivery bag emblazoned with the logo of Oriental Flavor Restaurant. Her eyes were wide with horror, as if she'd just triggered a catastrophe. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't see you there," she stammered, frantically trying to wipe his shirt with a crumpled napkin. The room erupted in laughter, sharp and mocking. "Who let someone like that in here?" one guest sneered. "She's probably never even seen a suit up close. What a disaster." Layla, the delivery girl, felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. "I was just delivering an order. The app sent me to the wrong address," she explained, her voice trembling but defiant. The banker, still fuming, snapped, "Get this girl out of here now." Before Layla could protest, a security guard grabbed her arm. "You don't belong here," he said coldly. She tried to pull away, her heart racing. "Wait, I was just making a delivery. I'm not trespassing." That's when Richard stepped forward, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. "Let her go." The guard froze. The guests exchanged shocked glances. The banker's frown deepened. "Richard, don't tell me you're defending this nobody." But Richard ignored him completely, his piercing gaze fixed on Layla. He crossed his arms casually. "What's your name? And why are you here?" Layla swallowed hard, her mind reeling. The richest man in the city was speaking to her. "I'm Layla," she said hesitantly. "I work at Oriental Flavor Restaurant doing deliveries. The app sent me to the wrong place." Richard's eyes narrowed, a spark of recognition flickering. "Wait, is that the restaurant that delivers yakisoba?" Layla blinked, caught off guard. "Yes, how do you know?" A rare smile broke across Richard's face, softening his sharp features. "So, you're the one who makes that incredible yakisoba." Layla scratched the back of her head, unsure how to respond. "Well, it's my grandmother's secret recipe. I just helped prepare it." Richard rubbed his chin, a thoughtful glint in his eyes. "That's perfect. I need a cook." The room gasped in unison. Layla froze. The banker's jaw practically hit the floor. "Richard, you can't be serious." But Richard was unfazed. "I'll pay you 3 times what you make as a delivery driver." Layla nearly choked. 3 times her salary? That was life-changing money. But her loyalty to her grandmother and their small family restaurant tugged at her heart. She couldn't just abandon it. Thinking fast, she crossed her arms and blurted out 5 times more. The guest's eyes widened. The banker looked like he might faint. Richard raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "You're pretty demanding." "I have bills to pay," Layla shot back, her confidence surprising even herself. Richard smirked, clearly amused. 4 times. 4.5, Layla countered, holding his gaze. The room was silent, hanging on their every word. "Do you always negotiate like this?" Richard asked, his tone playful. "Only when I'm in trouble," she replied with a grin. The banker huffed in frustration. "Richard, are you really hiring this girl?" But Richard's eyes never left Layla. "Deal," he said firmly. Layla's jaw dropped. "What? You mean I start tomorrow?" The room buzzed with whispers and stifled laughter. Layla glanced at her stained apron, then at the sea of glamorous faces around her. What had just happened? She'd come to deliver food, and now she was employed by an unpredictable billionaire CEO. What could possibly go wrong? The next morning, Layla woke up in her small bedroom above Oriental Flavor Restaurant. her mind still spinning from the night before. She rubbed her eyes, half expecting it to have been a dream. Did I really agree to work for a billionaire CEO? She muttered to herself. From the other side of the door, her grandmother's warm voice called out, "Layla, dear, breakfast is ready." Layla took a deep breath and stepped into the cozy kitchen, where the familiar smell of frying spring rolls filled the air. Her grandmother, a spry woman with silver hair and a mischievous smile, was already preparing the day's first orders. "So, how was that big party last night?" she asked, not even turning from the stove. Layla grabbed a cup of coffee and slumped into a chair. "Oh, it was great. I caused a little disaster, spilled juice all over a banker, almost got kicked out, and, well, now I work for Richard Stone." Her grandmother froze, spatula in midair. "What?" I know, it sounds crazy," Layla said, sipping her coffee. "But he offered me 5 times what I make here, and I accepted part-time, of course." Her grandmother resumed stirring the spring rolls, her expression thoughtful. "And do you trust this man?" Layla shrugged, a small smile tugging at her lips. "He eats our yakisoba every week. If he were dangerous, he'd have tried to kidnap me by now." Her grandmother chuckled, shaking her head. "Well, go ahead, but if he gives you trouble, let me know. I'll handle him." Layla grinned, finishing her coffee. "Wish me luck that I don't break anything on my first day." The Stone Enterprises building was a towering monument of glass and steel, intimidating in its grandeur. As Layla stepped inside, a blast of cold air from the air conditioning hit her, and she saw employees in sleek suits and high heels rushing around, talking on phones or typing on expensive tablets. She adjusted her apron, feeling like a fish out of water. At the reception desk, a well-dressed woman gave her a skeptical look. "Can I help you?" "I'm Layla, Richard's new cook," she said, trying to sound confident. The receptionist blinked slowly, as if processing a joke, then picked up the phone. "Mr. Stone, your new cook is here." After a muffled response, she pointed to the elevator. "Top floor." Layla's stomach twisted with nerves as she rode the elevator. When the doors opened, she was greeted by a sight she hadn't expected. Richard's private kitchen was a masterpiece of marble countertops, glass shelves, and a massive island in the center. Richard stood there, leaning casually against the counter, arms crossed, waiting for her. "I got lost 3 times on the way, but I made it," Layla replied, trying to match his confidence. He chuckled and gestured to a spread of fresh ingredients on the counter. "Good. Let's see if you actually know how to cook." Layla raised an eyebrow. "You didn't test that before hiring me? That sounds like a bad business decision." "It might be," Richard said with a smirk. "But if it's terrible, I'll just fire you and move on." Layla narrowed her eyes, sensing a challenge. "All right, let's see who loses here." She rolled up her sleeves and started preparing her grandmother's yakisoba recipe, feeling Richard's eyes on her the entire time. "You're staring too much," she muttered, stirring the vegetables. "I'm studying the process," he replied, unfazed. "I can't tell if I'm a cook or an animal at the zoo." He grinned. "Just making sure my food is edible." Layla rolled her eyes in focus, but her nerves got the better of her. In a moment of distraction, she added way too much soy sauce. The salty aroma filled the air, and panic set in. "Oh no," she whispered, trying to fix it, but the damage was done. Richard served himself a portion, picked up chopsticks, and took a bite. He chewed slowly, his face unreadable. Layla held her breath. "Well," Richard said, pausing dramatically, "have you ever been to the ocean?" Layla groaned. "Why?" "Because this has about the same amount of salt." She covered her face with her hands. "Great. First day, and I've already ruined everything." Richard set the chopsticks down. "It's a rookie mistake, but honestly, it's still better than a lot of things I've eaten." Layla peeked through her fingers. "So, I passed the test?" He laughed. "Yes, but with one condition, don't poison me." "No promises," she shot back, a smile creeping onto her face. A few days later, Richard's financial advisor, Paul stormed into the kitchen with a stern expression. "Mr. Stone, can we talk?" Richard sighed. "Layla, finish up here and meet me in my office." Layla nodded, watching them leave. Alone in the kitchen, she couldn't help but wonder what she'd gotten herself into. In less than a week, she'd gone from delivering food to cooking for a billionaire in a world of wealth and power. As she cleaned the counter, her thoughts raced. This was just the beginning. When she reached Richard's office, she found the door slightly ajar. Inside, Paul was speaking in a serious tone. "This is not the right time for distractions, Richard. You need to stay focused on the merger with Sterling Group. You can't afford to waste time hiring street cooks." Layla's eyes narrowed. "Street cook?" She pushed the door open and stepped inside. "If I'm a street cook and you're just an office executive, it's the same thing." Paul turned, startled by her interruption. "And you are?" Richard hid a smile. "Layla, this is Paul, my financial advisor." Layla sized Paul up. "Nice. Now you can stop calling me a street cook." Paul scoffed, turning back to Richard. "Are you really taking this seriously?" Richard shrugged. "Her food is better than any five-star restaurant around here." Layla lifted her chin defiantly. Paul crossed his arms, a challenge in his eyes. "Fine. Why don't you introduce this chef to your business partners? Let's see if she's really as good as you claim." Layla blinked. "What?" Richard considered the idea, a spark of excitement in his eyes. That's not a bad suggestion." Layla's eyes widened. "Wait, what?" Paul smiled smugly. "Tomorrow night, Richard has a business dinner. Why don't you cook for the investors? If you're as good as he says, everyone will be impressed. If not," he shrugged. "Layla didn't miss a beat. I still get paid either way." Richard laughed. "She's got a point." Paul's eyes narrowed. "Then it's settled." Layla crossed her arms. "And do I get to choose the menu?" Paul hesitated. "Well, usually these dinners have more sophisticated dishes." "But I was hired because my food is good, not because I follow rules," Layla interrupted. Richard grinned at Paul. "I like that." Paul sighed. "Just don't make anyone sick." "No promises," Layla replied with a mischievous smile. The next morning, Layla arrived early at Stone Enterprises, carrying a basket overflowing with fresh ingredients. Richard found her in the kitchen and glanced at the bags. "How many people are you planning to feed?" "6 investors and you, so technically 7, Layla said, unpacking. "But it's always good to have extra food." Richard grabbed an apple from the basket and took a bite. "So what's on the menu?" Layla leaned on the counter, her eyes sparkling with confidence. "Something simple but unforgettable. We'll start with crispy shrimp fritters, then special fried rice with fresh herbs, sweet and sour beef that melts in your mouth, and, of course, my grandmother's yakisoba." Richard raised an eyebrow. "You're serving yakisoba to millionaires?" Layla lifted her chin. "They're going to love it." He chuckled, taking another bite of the apple. "You're stubborn." "And I'm good at what I do," she shot back. That night, the business dinner was held in an elegant private dining room. Layla worked tirelessly in the kitchen, her focus unwavering as she prepared each dish with care. She peeked through the glass door and saw the investors, elegantly dressed men and women speaking in hushed tones. Paul was among them, giving her a smug glance. Layla rolled her eyes and got back to work. Richard appeared beside her. "Nervous?" Layla raised an eyebrow. "Me? Never." He laughed. "We'll see." The dishes began to make their way out: golden shrimp fritters, fragrant fried rice, glistening sweet and sour beef, and finally the steaming yakisoba with perfectly sautéed vegetables. At first, the guests ate with neutral expressions, their forks moving cautiously. Layla watched from the kitchen, her heart pounding. Then slowly smiles appeared. Whispers turned into murmurs of approval. One investor cleared his throat and looked at Richard. "This is surprising." Another nodded. "I've never had yakisoba this good." Paul's face soured like he'd swallowed a lemon. Richard glanced at Layla across the room and gave her a subtle nod. She'd done it. She hadn't just impressed him, she won him over. For the first time, Layla realized this job might be more exciting than she'd ever imagined. The success of the business dinner sent ripples through Stone Enterprises. Word of Layla's cooking spread, and soon employees were whispering about her in the hallways. "So this is the mysterious cook," one said as she passed. "How did someone like her get in here?" another muttered. "I heard Mr. Stone is interested in her," a third added with a smirk. Layla's eyes widened. "Interested? What a ridiculous rumor." She quickened her pace, gripping her shopping bag tightly. She needed to focus on work, not gossip, but when she entered Richard's private kitchen, she stopped short. The countertops were covered with takeout boxes from high-end restaurants, elegant dishes plated with artistic precision. Richard stood by the counter, holding a fork and staring at the food like it was a personal insult. Layla set down her bag and crossed her arms. "What's going on here?" Richard sighed, tossing the fork aside. "Paul insisted I try food from some of the best chefs in town to refine my palate." Layla picked up a box lid and read the name. "LeBlanc? Oh, the place that charges $500 for a tiny dish that looks like table decor?" She glanced at the plates and frowned. "This doesn't look like food. It looks like modern art." Richard chuckled. "Finally, someone who agrees with me." Layla grabbed a fork, stabbed a piece of meat adorned with a gold leaf, and tasted it. She made a face. "This tastes like seasoned cardboard." "Exactly." Richard laughed, his eyes lighting up. Layla looked at the lavish spread, then at Richard. "You already had good food here, and you let all this go to waste just to try gourmet nonsense?" "Blame Paul," Richard said, shrugging. "He wants me to refine my taste." Layla rolled her eyes and started unpacking her bag. "If it's refined taste he wants, I'll show him what real food is." She began preparing a plate of fried rice with chicken and her grandmother's special sauce, the aroma quickly filling the kitchen. Richard watched closely, leaning against the counter. When she placed the bowl in front of him, he didn't hesitate. He took a bite, closed his eyes, and sighed. "This is good." Layla crossed her arms, satisfied. "Better than the expensive dishes?" Richard smiled playfully. "No comparison." Before Layla could respond, the kitchen door swung open. A blonde woman in a tailored suit strode in as if she owned the place. "Richard, darling, I've been looking for you." She stopped when she saw Layla, her eyes narrowing. "Who is this?" Richard took another bite of his fried rice, unfazed. "Layla, my personal chef." The woman laughed dramatically. "A chef? What do you mean? You've never needed a chef." Layla caught the woman's condescending glance. "Well, now he does," she said with a sly smile. The woman's expression faltered. Richard sighed and pushed his plate aside. "Layla, this is Miranda. She's my ex-girlfriend." Layla raised an eyebrow. "Lucky you." Miranda laughed again, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "Oh dear, I'm still very much a part of Richard's life." Layla's eyes narrowed. "Lucky you," she repeated, her voice sharper this time. Richard rubbed his temple, clearly exasperated. "Miranda, what do you want?" She placed a hand on his shoulder, her smile saccharine. "Dinner tonight at LeBlanc, just like old times." Layla bit her lip to keep from laughing. Richard sighed. "I have a meeting. Maybe tomorrow." He glanced at Layla, then back at Miranda. "Besides, I have my own chef now. I don't need to go out to eat." Miranda's smile faltered, but she recovered quickly. "Well, I hope your new chef is very talented, because I doubt anything can top dinner at LeBlanc." Layla leaned on the counter, her voice sweet but sharp. "If you'd like, I can prepare something special for you." Miranda looked her up and down. Oh dear, I doubt you're capable of that. Layla's smile didn't waver. There's only one way to find out. Richard held back a grin as Miranda shot him a sharp look. See you later, Richard. With that, she stormed out, leaving behind a cloud of expensive perfume. Layla turned to Richard. Has she always been like this? Worse, he said, chuckling. Good luck. Thanks, Layla muttered, taking a sip of juice. I'll need it. The next day, Layla arrived at Richard's office to find him in a heated discussion with Paul. This is ridiculous, Richard, Paul exclaimed, slamming his hand on the desk. Sounds like a great challenge to me, Richard replied, crossing his arms with a half-smile. Layla paused at the doorway, holding a bag of fresh ingredients. Am I interrupting something important? Paul ran a hand over his face, clearly frustrated. Tell him yourself that this idea is ridiculous. Layla frowned, looking at Richard. What is it now? Richard pointed to an open newspaper on his desk. The headline announced a charity food event featuring the city's top chefs. Paul thinks I'm not capable of winning this cooking competition. Layla blinked in disbelief. You want to participate? Richard gave a small smile. Why not? Paul rolled his eyes. Because you're a CEO, not a chef. Layla crossed her arms, smirking. Richard, can you at least cook an egg? He tilted his head. I made instant noodles once. Paul threw his hands up. See? He doesn't stand a chance. Layla bit her lip to keep from laughing. Well, then I suggest he gets a good teacher. Richard looked at her, his eyes gleaming. Are you offering to teach me? She shrugged. If you promise not to burn down the kitchen. The next few days were utter chaos. Layla quickly learned that Richard Stone, the man who managed billions in investments, was a disaster in the kitchen. On his first attempt at cooking a steak, he nearly set the pan on fire. Why is there so much smoke? He coughed, waving a hand in the air. Because you turned the heat up too high, Layla exclaimed, grabbing the pan from him. On his second attempt, he tried chopping onions and ended up cutting his finger. Ouch! My God, you're a danger to yourself, Layla said, rushing to bandage his hand. By the third lesson, Layla opted for something simple, a sandwich. But even that went wrong. You can't put half a jar of mayonnaise, Richard. But I like mayonnaise, he protested. Paul, who occasionally checked in, always left shaking his head. This is going to be a total disaster. Layla, however, was determined. He might be a disaster now, but he'll get better. Richard raised an eyebrow. You have that much faith in me? She smirked. No, but I like a challenge. Finally, the day of the event arrived. The hall was packed with renowned chefs, influential business people, and eager journalists. Richard, wearing a spotless apron, looked surprisingly confident despite his lack of experience. Layla stayed behind the scenes, watching with a mix of apprehension and pride. The participants had 1 hour to prepare an original dish. Richard grabbed his ingredients with determination and started cooking. Layla held her breath. He was still a disaster, but he'd improved. She watched as he chopped vegetables, slowly but without injury. He prepared the sauce with focus, careful not to overdo it. And when he plated the dish, it was precise, with no excessive mayonnaise in sight. When time was up, the judges tasted each dish, murmuring among themselves. Then they reached Richard's dish. A hush fell over the room as one judge took a bite, then another and another. Layla bit her lip. Finally, one judge wiped his mouth and looked at Richard. Mr. Stone, I have to admit, this is surprisingly delicious. Layla let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Paul, watching from a distance, widened his eyes. But how? Another judge nodded. The balance of flavors, the texture, truly impressive. Richard gave a slight smile and glanced at Layla, who gave him a thumbs up. When the results were announced, Richard didn't win, but he took second place, a remarkable feat for a CEO who never cooked before. As the event ended, he approached Layla with a satisfied smile. "So, teacher, did I do a good job?" She grinned. "I'd say you passed with flying colors." He stepped closer, his voice low. "There's something I've been meaning to ask." Layla crossed her arms, curious. "What is it?" Richard tilted his head, thoughtful. "How about we open a restaurant together?" Layla blinked, stunned. "What?" He smiled. "I'm serious. Your food is amazing, and honestly, I'm starting to enjoy this." Layla stared at him, trying to gauge if he was joking, but the gleam in his eyes told her he was serious. For the first time, she wondered if this wasn't just the end of a challenge, but the beginning of something much bigger. After the cooking event, Layla thought life might return to normal, but Richard's restaurant idea kept her mind racing. A business partnership with a billionaire? It sounded absurd. Yet when she arrived at Stone Enterprises the next morning, she found a stack of documents on the conference table. "Good morning, cooking teacher," Richard greeted with a sly smile. Layla eyed the papers suspiciously. "What's this?" Richard crossed his arms. "Potential locations for our restaurant." Layla blinked. "Wait, you actually want to open a restaurant with me?" He pulled out a chair and sat, tapping the documents. "Not only do I want to, but I've already started looking for the best places." She let out a nervous laugh. "Richard, this is crazy. I'm just a cook who learned from my grandmother." He shrugged. "And I'm just a billionaire who nearly set the kitchen on fire trying to fry a steak. Sounds like a perfect balance." Layla shook her head, still processing. "You really have no idea what you're doing, do you?" Richard smiled. "I just know every great investment starts with a good plan, and I have one." She sighed and sat beside him. "Okay, suppose I agree to this insane idea. Where do you plan to open this restaurant?" Richard opened the document and pointed to 3 locations. One downtown, one in an upscale neighborhood, and one near your village. Layla froze. "Near my village?" He nodded. "I thought it would be a great way to support your community. Plus, homemade food has a strong appeal." She looked at him suspicious. "Was this your idea or Paul's?" Richard laughed. "Mine. Paul thinks it's a mistake to invest outside the commercial center, but I disagree." Layla bit her lip, her mind racing. This was an incredible opportunity, but also a massive risk. "Is this serious?" 100%, Richard said firmly. She was quiet for a moment, then voiced her biggest concern. "My grandmother. I don't want to leave her alone at the restaurant." Richard tilted his head. "Then bring her to the new restaurant." Layla's eyes widened. "You make it sound so simple." "Isn't it?" he said with a grin. "She's a great cook. You're a great cook. It'd be a family business." Layla was speechless. Richard smiled. "Come on, Layla. What do you have to lose?" She took a deep breath. "Fine. But I want half the decision-making power over the restaurant." "Deal," he said without hesitation. "And no outrageous prices," she added. "I want it to be affordable for everyone." Richard raised an eyebrow. "You really know how to negotiate." Layla smiled. "I learn from you." That evening, Layla rushed home to tell her grandmother. She found her folding aprons in the small kitchen of Oriental flavor. "Grandma, you won't believe this," Layla said, pulling up a chair. "Richard wants to open a restaurant with me. With me!" Her grandmother blinked, surprised. "The billionaire you work for?" Layla nodded excitedly. "Yes, and he wants to open it near the village." The older woman smiled softly, still folding aprons. "And do you want this?" Layla hesitated. I think so, but only if you come with me. Her grandmother chuckled. My dear, I'm too old to start a new restaurant. But I need you, Layla insisted. This restaurant only exists because of you. Her grandmother took her hands gently. I'll always be here for you, Layla. But it's time for you to build your own story. Layla felt a lump in her throat. Her grandmother was right. For the first time, she realized she might be ready for this leap. The next few weeks were a whirlwind as Layla and Richard dove into the restaurant project. Their discussions were intense, filled with passion and occasional disagreements. I want affordable dishes, Layla insisted, but without compromising quality. Richard countered, we need a strong visual identity. He showed her logo options on his computer screen. Layla rested her face in her hands. Richard, something that shows sophistication but still feels welcoming, modern but with a rustic touch. He tilted his head. But branding is important. Layla rolled her eyes. More important than the food? He gave a sideways smile. Okay, let's focus on the food. They debated everything from the restaurant's name to the menu. How about taste of home? Richard suggested. Layla frowned. Kind of generic. How about flavors of the village? Richard thought it over and nodded. I like that. Slowly, the vision took shape. But an unexpected hurdle emerged. Paul burst into the office one day with a stack of papers. We've got a problem. Layla closed her eyes. Of course we do. Richard took the papers. What's happened now? Paul sighed. The property we picked for the restaurant needs urgent repairs, more than we expected. Electrical issues, leaks, and, well, let's just say there was a pigeon's nest in the kitchen. Layla put her hands on her head. This can't be happening. Richard flipped through the papers calmly. We can fix this. It'll delay things, but it's not impossible. Paul crossed his arms. Only it's going to be expensive. Layla's eyes widened. How expensive? Paul hesitated. Richard, unfazed, said, Don't worry about it. Layla slammed her hand on the table. Don't worry? Richard, this isn't just your money. I'm your partner. I need to know. He stared at her for a moment, then scribbled a number on a piece of paper and handed it to her. Layla's jaw dropped. Are you out of your mind? Richard shrugged. It's a necessary investment. Layla slapped her forehead. A necessary investment? Richard, with that money, I could buy half the town. Paul, enjoying the drama, watched silently. Layla took a deep breath. What if we found another place? Richard shook his head. This is the right place. He leaned forward, his voice serious. Do you trust me? Layla froze. He asked it with such conviction. She sighed. Fine. But if this restaurant goes bankrupt, I'll haunt you forever. Richard laughed. Fair enough. The restaurant soon became a construction site. Layla oversaw every detail, while Richard, well, he tried to help. Richard, no! That paint is for the walls, not the counter. Are you sure? I think it'd give it a modern touch. No. Paul, sipping coffee from a distance, smirked. You know, I really should bring a camera to record this. Richard threw a paintbrush at him. When the restaurant was finally complete, Layla stepped inside and felt her heart skip a beat. It was real. She turned to Richard, her eyes wide. This is amazing. He smiled. And this is just the beginning. The next challenge was hiring the team. Layla wanted people from her village, cooks who understood the soul of homemade food. Richard, however, pushed for a renowned chef. Layla, we need someone with experience. I have experience, she shot back. Someone with qualifications, he clarified. She put her hands on her hips. Oh, sure, because a diploma teaches what my grandmother's been doing for 50 years. Richard sighed. That's not what I meant. Layla crossed her arms. Then let me build my own team. He raised an eyebrow. You're that confident? She smiled. I'll prove I'm right. Layla went straight to her village, recruiting trusted locals. Mr. Pedro, do you still cook those amazing beans? Mrs. Rosa, are you looking for a new job? Remember when you wanted to be a baker? I have a proposal. In just a few days, she had her team ready. When Richard saw them gathered, scratching their heads at the idea of a billionaire and a village cook as partners, he couldn't help but smile. Layla tapped his shoulder. I bet you've never worked with such good people. He grinned. We'll see if they can handle it. The opening day of Flavors of the Village arrived faster than Layla expected. The town buzzed with excitement, journalists lined up outside, and customers formed a queue that stretched around the block. Inside the kitchen, chaos reigned. The sauce isn't right. The rice is burned. Who put sugar in the soy sauce? Layla shouted, running her hand over her face. Richard walked in, calm as ever, and crossed his arms. What's going on? Chaos! That's what's happening, Layla snapped. He laughed. Breathe. It's all under control. She glared at him. How can you be so calm? He placed his hands on her shoulders. Because you're the best cook I know. Layla froze, her frustration melting for a moment. First order, ready, a staff member called, snapping her back to reality. The opening was a resounding success. Customers raved about the food, showering Layla with compliments. Richard watched from a distance, a satisfied smile on his face. Paul approached him. You really took a big gamble on this. Richard's smile widened, and it paid off. Paul glanced at Layla, who was laughing while serving a table. It's not just about the restaurant, is it? Richard turned his gaze away. I don't know what you're talking about. Paul laughed. Of course you don't. The restaurant's success only grew. Lines wrapped around the corner, orders poured in, and customers left glowing reviews. But the fame brought new challenges. Influencers and celebrities began showing up, posting about the dishes. Layla became a local celebrity, much to her dismay. I didn't ask for this, she shouted, seeing a viral video of herself online. Richard, amused, leaned back in his chair. Congratulations. She pointed at her phone, exasperated. This video has over 1 million views. It's not funny. I'm just a cook. He crossed his arms. And now you're a famous cook. Layla massaged her temples. I just wanted to cook, not become a celebrity. Richard walked over, took her phone, and smiled. This is a good thing. It means people love what you do. Layla opened her mouth to argue but stopped. Deep down, he was right. Then Miranda returned. She swept into the restaurant like a queen, wearing sunglasses and high heels. Good morning, darlings. Layla's stomach turned. Richard at the register frowned. What do you want, Miranda? She smiled coyly. Just came to see how you're doing with all this success. Layla crossed her arms. You never show up without a reason. Miranda sighed dramatically and pulled a golden invitation from her purse. I'm organizing a special event, and I'd love for you to provide the catering. Layla blinked. What? Miranda's smile widened. I know we've had our differences, but business is business, right? Layla glanced at Richard, who looked suspicious. And what kind of event would this be? He asked. A charity dinner, Miranda said, her tone dripping with false sincerity. A lot of important people will be there. It'd be a great opportunity for you. Layla hesitated. It wasn't a bad idea, but she didn't trust Miranda. She looked at Richard. What do you think? He sighed. I think it's risky to trust her. Miranda rolled her eyes. For God's sake, Richard, I'm offering you a golden opportunity. Layla hesitated, then nodded. Okay, we'll do the catering. Miranda smiled triumphantly. Great. Richard crossed his arms. If you try anything. Relax, darling, Miranda interrupted. It's going to be a success. With that, she left. Richard turned to Layla. Are you sure about this? She took a deep breath. I know she has hidden motives, but if this helps the restaurant grow, it's worth the risk. He sighed. You're braver than I thought. Layla smiled. You haven't seen anything yet. On the day of the event, something felt off. The waiters were nervous, the organizers avoided eye contact, and then Richard got a phone call. His face turned pale. What? He said into the phone. Layla turned to him. What's going on? His eyes darkened with anger. Miranda set us up. She told all the guests our food was made by another chef. Layla's jaw dropped. What? She's using our food but claiming it was made by a competitor? Layla felt fury rise. That snake. Richard looked at the staff. Everyone, stop serving now. The waiters exchanged glances. Layla huffed. No, I'll handle this myself. Without hesitation, she stormed onto the stage, grabbed a microphone, and spoke clearly. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the dinner. I just want to clear something up. Miranda at the back of the room went pale. All this food was prepared by Flavors of the Village by me and my team, Layla continued. A murmur spread through the crowd. Miranda tried to intervene. This is a mistake. But Layla didn't back down. If anyone has doubts, feel free to come to the kitchen and I'll cook a dish right here. The guests erupted in applause. Miranda shook with rage. Richard, watching from the side, smiled. This girl is amazing, he muttered. That night, Layla and Richard left the event victorious. Miranda's plan had backfired, and Flavors of the Village was now the talk of the town. The fallout from Miranda's failed scheme only boosted the restaurant's fame. Flavors of the Village was featured in newspapers and on social media, and Layla couldn't walk through the market without being recognized. Hey, it's the chef from Flavors of the Village, a woman shouted, pointing. You have to teach me that recipe, the customer called excitedly. Layla, holding a bag of ingredients, smiled nervously and hurried away. Richard, walking beside her, grinned. You're getting famous. I didn't want to get famous, she grumbled, shoving a tomato into her bag. This is your fault. Richard raised an eyebrow. Mine. Did I drag you into this world of rich people, or did you come willingly? She opened her mouth to argue but closed it. He was right. With the restaurant thriving, Richard proposed another challenge. I want you to cook for a special business dinner, just for a few select people. Layla frowned. What do you mean by special? He smiled. You'll see. The dinner was held at the top floor of a luxury hotel. Layla arrived with her ingredients, feeling out of place among the crystal chandeliers and polished marble. I definitely don't belong in this world, she muttered. But once she stepped into the kitchen, her confidence returned. This was her domain. As she cooked, Richard entertained the guests. You found a diamond in the rough, Richard, one businessman commented. That girl has talent, another added. Richard smiled. I know. The dishes were a hit, earning gasps of delight from the guests. But trouble struck when Layla returned to the kitchen. A waiter was holding a suspicious bottle, attempting to pour something into the sauce. What are you doing? She shouted, stopping him. The man's eyes widened and he bolted. Come back here. Layla yelled, but he was gone. She grabbed the bottle and shivered. Someone had tried to sabotage the dinner. She ran to Richard. We need to talk. He noticed her urgency and nodded. What happened? She showed him the bottle. Someone tried to put this in the sauce. His eyes darkened. Who? Layla sighed. I didn't see clearly, but he ran off as soon as he saw me. Richard took a deep breath. I'll take care of it. For the first time, Layla saw fury in his eyes. The dinner ended successfully, but Richard was on edge. He was determined to find the culprit. The next morning, Layla arrived at the restaurant still shaken by the sabotage attempt. She couldn't stop thinking about what might have happened if she hadn't caught the waiter in time. A ruined dinner could have destroyed the restaurant's reputation. Richard appeared in the kitchen, his expression grim. We need to talk. Layla sighed, still organizing ingredients. If this is about last night's dinner, I'm already stressed enough. He pulled out his phone and showed her a headline. Successful restaurant owner involved in fraud scandal. Rumors indicate head chef is nothing but a fraud. Layla's face was plastered across the article. Her eyes widened. What? Who wrote this? Richard took a deep breath. I'm investigating, but it seems someone is trying to bring us down. Layla clenched her fists. This is ridiculous. I work harder in this restaurant than anyone. How can they say I'm a fraud? Richard sighed. I knew our growth would upset some competitors, but this is going too far. Layla's mind raced. First the sabotage, now this. What if it's Miranda? Richard nodded. I wouldn't put it past her. He called Samuel Lopez, his private investigator. Find out who's behind this, he instructed. 2 days later, Samuel had answers. It's Miranda, he confirmed. She couldn't accept the humiliation from the charity event, and now she's trying to buy the restaurant. Richard scowled. She's lost her mind. Layla, cleaning the kitchen, froze when Richard told her. She wants to take us down by buying the restaurant? He nodded. It's her way of winning. The next morning, a man in a suit appeared at the restaurant with a contract. Miss Miranda wants to purchase this restaurant for a generous price. Layla glanced at the numbers and laughed. Is she kidding me? The man adjusted his glasses. No, miss. She believes this is a fair offer. Layla tore up the contract. Tell her I'm not for sale. The man collected the pieces and left. Richard arrived shortly after. What did he want? Layla crossed her arms. Miranda tried to buy me out. He smiled. And what did you do? She lifted her chin. What do you think? He laughed. You surprise me more every day. But Miranda didn't stop. A new headline broke. Flavors the Village closed due to sanitary violations. Layla's heart sank. This can't be real. Richard knew it was a setup. She wants the system the restaurant to close. Layla refused to give up. Then we'll fight. Richard smiled. Now you're speaking my language. They confronted the health inspection office with forged evidence, a photo of expired products and a cockroach in the pantry. Richard pointed out a discrepancy. This brand of seasoning hasn't been on the market for 2 years. The inspector hesitated, but insisted on a 2-week wait for a new inspection. Layla had an idea. If we can't open the restaurant, we'll bring the restaurant to the customers. They set up a delivery system, posting on social media. Flavors of the Village may be closed, but our food still comes to you. Order now and enjoy homemade flavors wherever you are. Orders flooded in, and the plan worked, until another headline appeared. Closed restaurant continues to operate illegally. Layla groaned. This woman has no limits. Richard called Samuel. Find out how Miranda's getting this information. The next morning, they caught an employee taking secret photos from Miranda. She paid me to sabotage you, he confessed. Richard fired him on the spot. Now we know the truth, he said. It's time to strike back. The next day, an article exposed Miranda's scheme with proof of her bribes and messages. The regulatory agency reopened the restaurant immediately. Layla hugged Richard, tears in her eyes. We did it! That night, Flavors of the Village reopened to a massive crowd. Layla smiled, watching the line of customers. This is unbelievable. Richard grinned. No, this is the result of your work. The restaurant's success soared, but fame brought new challenges. Layla became a local celebrity, and rumors about her and Richard swirled. One evening, Richard invited her to dinner at a luxurious restaurant. I feel like I'm being analyzed, Layla said nervously, glancing around. Richard smiled. You are, but ignore it. They talked for hours, the world fading away. But as they left, journalists swarmed them with questions. Mr. Stone, is Miss Layla your new girlfriend? Was this a romantic date? Richard guided Layla to the car, his arm around her. Ignore them. The next morning, headlines screamed, CEO Richard Stone caught on a romantic dinner with village girl. Layla's phone exploded with messages. Her grandmother called. Are you seeing that man? No, I mean, yes, but it's not like that, Layla stammered. Then what is it like? Layla didn't know how to answer. When Richard arrived at the restaurant, she confronted him. This is ruining my reputation. He raised an eyebrow. Your reputation or your heart? She froze. What? I like you, Layla, he said, stepping closer. And I think you like me too. Her heart raced. Richard, you don't have to answer now, but think about it. That night, Layla couldn't sleep, torn between fear and feelings she couldn't deny. The next morning, she found a note from Richard. Don't run away. We need to talk. I'll be waiting at the Grand Imperial Hotel at 7 p.m. At the hotel, Richard was nervous, a rare sight. I want to make you an offer, he said. I want you to be with me. I like you, Layla, and I don't want to pretend anymore. Her heart pounded. This doesn't make sense. I'm not like the women you know. I don't want you to change, he said, taking her hand. I want you just as you are. Tears burned her eyes. You can't promise that. Then give me a chance to prove it. Without thinking, Layla kissed him, a moment that felt like everything fell into place. Months later, Richard proposed at a special dinner. Marry me, he said, kneeling with her velvet box. Layla's heart stopped. I can't imagine my life without you, he said. Tears streamed down her face. Yes, she whispered, laughing and crying. The wedding was held in Layla's village in her grandmother's garden. Simple flowers and lights adorned the trees, and the community prepared homemade food. Layla wore a delicate lace dress, her hair woven with wildflowers. Richard, in a tailored suit, looked at ease among the villagers. As they said their vows, cheers erupted. Richard whispered, You're officially mine forever. Layla smiled. I hope you can handle a stubborn cook. He laughed and kissed her. I wouldn't have it any other way. What do you think of Richard and Layla's story? Share your thoughts in the comments. On a scale from 0 to 10, how would you rate this story? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more emotional stories.